So this video is going to be basically lots of little pieces of me putting the car back together again, and you know me, I don't really like doing long videos of tightening up bolts and stuff, but I'm going to try and give a little bit more detail in this one because sometimes it can look quite easy. Look, here the motor's out, here the motor's in, but I'll try and give a little bit more detail in this video of the struggles because there's going to be lots of struggles. But what I've done first is I bought a puller. So I've got my spline adapter, which has got two different splines for the motor and the gearbox there. I had to get a puller to get it off the old motor. Got that off, which is great. So my first job is to swap the old motor with the new motor that's down there. So just physically swap them in the workshop and put the adapter plates on. So let me move stuff around and we'll reconvene. Okay, so we have the new motor here. I'm just going to put a bit of grease on the spline here just to try and help, because I know how snug this fit is. So a little bit of grease just to help it on its way. If I can get some more out there. There we go. Okay, greased up, baby. Hopefully, I might need to put some on the spline as well, but we'll just try it one-sided for the moment. Let's put that there. So I have no idea how easy this is going to go on or not. Oh, okay, not very easily. Okay, fair enough. So I've got my little mallet here. I'm just going to vary. Okay, well, that's going on. Don't want to hit it very hard though. Wow. God, he made that a good fit. My worry is, I think I'm going to take that off because I'm worried there might be dirt. No, there's not any dirt in there, is there? It's only just come off. I'm just worried about if I'm compressing any dirt and this then gets stuck on. I think it is just a tight fit and it is moving on. I just don't want to get it wedged on. That's that'd be a bit of a disaster. God, that's now not moving anymore. And the problem is, obviously, the more I get it on, the more friction there is, the harder it is to get it on any further. And I'm only probably about a quarter of the way. Right, I'm going to turn the video off, do a little bit of investigation. Absolutely brilliant, as you'd always expect. Something you think would be dead simple has just taken me, I don't know, half an hour to do. So I thought I would use a mallet. Where's my mallet gone? Here we go. Thought I'd use my mallet, as you saw, and I was hitting it on. Got it to about a third of the way, maybe quarter of the way. Then decided I could hit it a bit harder. I wasn't really going to cause much damage. I wasn't hitting it that hard. Got it to about halfway. But I think the mallet, I was then moving the motor. So I then put my old motor behind the new motor just to give it a bit more resistance, which then allowed it to get on about 3/4 of the way. But I couldn't. Well, actually, really what's happened is I've given myself a blister right in here hitting it. So I then thought, well, I need a bit more power, but I don't want to hit the end here with a hammer because obviously a hammer is just going to mash up the nice, lovely spline I've got. So got a bit of plywood, put it against it, and actually it tapped on. I wish I'd done that right from the start. It just tapped on really fairly easily, to be honest. Didn't have to hit it very hard, but again, it shows that when you've got the right technique and the right tools, these things are easy. So, done. Spline is on. I'm now going to spin the motor around. Oh, no. I'm going to leave it here because I need to put the adapter plates on. So let me get that set up. I'm going to tidy up a little of the mess that I've made now. And let's get these adapter plates bolted in. Right, that was fairly straightforward. So it's taken me a couple of minutes to... There are some kind of dowels, metal dowels going the other way that line the adapter plate up, bolt it in. Dead simple, really. So that's the first adapter plate. So that's, although the first one I'm putting on, that's actually my second adapter plate that then bolts onto my first adapter plate from the original RX8 EV that I made. So I'm going to line that up now and get that bolted on. So again, this is going to be much more complicated than I first thought, because taking it apart's easy, but putting it back together is not going to be so. So here's my second adapter plate to go on the first, but it has to bridge certain points. I can't remember when this was made we had to do this, but so I've got these little kind of holes that go in there to bridge. Why the adapter plate wasn't bigger I really can't remember. I guess it's because we've got this lip up here of the motor. So if we had a bigger bit of aluminium, I really don't know why we didn't make it bigger. But anyway, we have these bridges which go in here, which obviously go on the bolts. But I don't just have one of them, there's one here and there's 3 on the other side. Ta-da! So kind of got to get all of it to line up with these in place. I really need the motor on its back actually, and then I can just slot it all down, would be good. But yeah, let me have a play and we'll come back. Okay, not too bad at all. I've put the motor on its back and that just slots straight on top. The little metal dowels that you saw earlier, they've just slotted this into place, so this isn't even bolted on now, it's rigid in the right place. Got these 6 bolts this side to do, and then the 4 kind of spanning things, which now it's in place I can just hold those one at a time and do them up. So I'm not going to bore you to tears with doing that. I'm going to put this together, spin it round, and then we'll look at getting it back under the car. That wants to adjust the lighting there, back under the car, and we'll lift it back into position. You've got to just love this kind of stuff, haven't you? So one motor under there, got the straps on, and it's currently kind of levitating just above the ground because I have it attached to my hoist. But I mean, I just don't understand how it's ever going to fit, because if you look down here, can I see that on the camera? Let's have a look if that's any better. Yeah, so there's the front of it, and there is a bit of a gap obviously for it to move towards the rear of the car. But the other end is like way under the chassis. It doesn't look like it's going to fit by about 6 inches. So obviously it came out, but I'm looking at it going, well, I just don't know. I guess I've got this gap here. I can move the crane a bit further forward, but man, it's tight. I do not remember. It just dropped out when it came out. It just dropped out, and right, I'm just gonna have to lift it up and see what happens. I must have had it lifted at a slight angle or something, and it just kind of slotted in or out. I don't remember doing anything clever. It just fell out. Well, it didn't fall out, but I lifted it out. Right, here we go. So my memory must be pretty awful because I've had to spin it sideways. I must have spun it sideways to get it out because it just doesn't fit. So I spun it sideways, lifting it up, that's all good. The spline there, you can see is going to go on the gearbox there. That slipped off pretty easily, so all the trouble I had at the other end, it being super tight, this end should hopefully slot in. I can bolt the adapter plate on, then I can take the weight of it and hopefully get that axle stand off the gearbox, and then we'll check the height because the gearbox and the whole drivetrain needs to be a specific height. There's a way you can measure it in the RX8 just to make sure that it's all nice and level, you're not putting any undue stress on it. So we'll get this bolted in, I'll get it spun round and I'll be back. So it doesn't come up sideways either because my crane bumped into the bonnet, but I seem to be able to get it all out with the bonnet up. So I've taken the bonnet off now so I can lift the crane higher, lift this higher, spin it around further up here where there's more cavity. I've got more light as well. Obviously with the bonnet on I can actually see what I'm doing. I don't know how I managed to do it all without taking the bonnet off, and I didn't take this strut off. This would be easy to take off, but I am hanging things from it. Who knows? Anyway, let's lift this up higher and spin it round. So with a lot of fiddling and faffing, I lifted the motor right up, took the bonnet off as you saw, managed to spin it round. I had to be really careful, done it millimetre by millimetre because got my BMS wiring, high voltage cables, my brake system, coolants, obviously pumps and vacuum pumps, and a lot of wiring as well. So just being really careful, millimetre by millimetre. And then back here, if I get the camera right in there, a bit of light. You can see my 2 splines nearly touching. So I'm now going to see if I can push those together, and that'll be a couple of hours and motor nearly in. So it's now Saturday. Only probably spent about 45 minutes to an hour yesterday trying to get this motor to connect. So down here we have the motor, there we have the gearbox, and I started to put these in, so I just put some rods in just to try and match up the holes because quite frankly it has to match and be aligned absolutely perfectly for that to go in. As I say, I spent about 45 minutes to an hour yesterday, couldn't get the line up. but I had to go out, and that was yesterday done. So today I am back, and it's Saturday. This thing is going in and being connected right now. So note to self, I think in the future might be easier to take the gearbox out. I've done this without taking the gearbox out because I think I mentioned before, I was kind of being lazy. I just thought, oh, yeah, whip the motor out, put it back in. But obviously lining this spline up perfectly, it has to be perfect. And of course I'm using a 1-ton crane and cables and seat belts and oh dear God, has it been really hard. But eventually it got on about, I don't know, 5 or 10 mil, and since then just wobbling it and just coaxing it in, and then using various clamps. I've got a wood clamp underneath, slowly bringing it together. And then of course the motor was slightly twisted. I couldn't twist it back, but I've managed to find that actually if I twist the rope I could pull it one way or the other very slightly, bit by bit, up and down. More times I'm sweating like a pig. She is flush. She's not bolted in, so I'm now going to bolt her up, and I can get the crane out of the way then. That's all that done. And yeah, good job. So it's about another hour, I would say, so far, to get that back into place. But note to self for future, just drop the gearbox out, because I've got the lift now. I've got, you know, a metre clearance under the car. I can just drop the whole gearbox out. I could have done this all on the floor and then just lifted it all straight to place. But by doing it the way I've done it, you know, I have tried not to work under the car too much as well, because, not because of my lift, that car's fine, but because of the crane holding, you know, what is it, 70 kilos worth of stuff above my head. So tried not to do it from too much underneath, or arm's length at best. Anyway, she's in. So going to bolt that up, get the crane out of the way, and then look at putting the inverter on top, I guess. So back in a mo. So plan of action, because it's not going to be quite as simple as I thought. I was like, oh, I'll stick the inverter on and all's good with the world. But of course I got my lift in the way. It's easier to get the inverter on if I lower the drivetrain slightly. There's more room and I can lift it back into position. But of course I can't lower it while it's attached, because the inverter needs to sit where these cables are. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to lower it onto axle stand, then unstrap it, put the inverter on, strap it back up, lift it back into place, then measure the measurement, which I'll show you on camera in a minute, to make sure the drivetrain is in the right position, then bolt the engine mounts in, and thumbs up. Yeah, never going to be that simple, but here we go. Let's try that. So out of all the jobs so far, that was the least painful. Literally did exactly what I said. I lowered the motor down, probably a good 6 inches below, no, maybe not that much, about 3 inches below where it normally should sit. The rest of the drivetrain obviously can pivot down off the rear axle, so nothing traps or not bending anything. Then the inverter just slips straight on. There are 6 bolts around it, bolted up. The connector, if I can get in here, that's the 3-phase connector that slots in. I haven't put the bolts in yet, so I'll put those bolts in, and that connects the 3-phase to the motor. Obviously got the 2-phase, that's not 2-phase, so I say DC connectors there, which I'll plumb back in as well. So that was pretty simple. So bit of fiddling now with the ride height. No, wrong words again. The drivetrain height. So I'm just going to go and look up actually what I need to do, because it's been a while since I've done it, and then I'll actually show that what the measurements are, because it's really important that the drive is parallel and straight, because you don't want to be putting any undue load on the system. But anyway, that's the new motor and inverter in place. Right, so this has been a lot harder work again as ever. I'm boiling hot. I need some lunch in a minute. But anyway, this is the power plant frame. If you're not familiar with the RX8, it runs all the way down to the rear differential, and it's responsible for holding up the rear of the gearbox, and it makes one solid drive all the way through right to the engine at the front. So it goes from, obviously it only goes halfway, but then the gearbox is a solid piece as well, bolted onto the motor with the front motor mounts, so it's kind of one solid big unit. There's an important measurement though. This distance here
between this cross member, which I don't think really does a lot other than when the exhausts are in here. Obviously protects the exhaust from any like speed bumps and stuff, I guess. So that's still there. But from the bottom here to the top, there to there, so from underneath to the top, needs to be somewhere between 59 and 72 millimeters. So I always just get my little ruler here, slap it up. Not sure if you can read that very well on the film, but I can assure you it's about 65. Let me just double check that. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 65. Yeah, 65, 64. So kind of at the lower end of the range, but okay. So I'm going to button up the engine mounts. The engine mounts, which are here on the side, and here is the other side. So I'm going to button those up, and yeah, and then I'll redo the measurement again, make sure that when it all settles, it hasn't settled too low. I'm going to get some lunch. Catch you later. So I like sharing with you, warts and all, what goes on, because it's not all a bed of roses when doing this kind of work. I've nutted up the engine mount, and then because the engine mount is obviously, it's on their rubber mounts essentially, so when I've then let the weight of everything just drop off the jack, off the crane, it's all just settled, and I'm now 3 mil outside the minimum tolerance. Now the tolerance is only about 12 mil anyway, so you can argue, oh, it's nearly there, but I don't think I should leave it like that. There's a reason there's a tolerance. So I've been at it all morning. I'm going to need to just lift the weight back off the engine mounts, unbutton them, just take them completely out, just undo them slightly. Lift the motor. I'm going to lift the motor right above the maximum distance, button it back up, and then let it sit, and it should hopefully sit back in the middle. So yeah, warts and all, doesn't always go to plan, but I really can't be bothered to do that now. I'm filthy, sweaty, hungry, and time for a break. But I'll speak to you later.